Does adding elements of the Zelda universe into a beloved indie game pay dividends? Well, stick around and I'll let you know my thoughts in my review of Cadence of Hyrule on the Nintendo Switch. Indie games are often lauded for offering gameplay a little bit out of left field, and that was certainly the case with Crypt of the Necrodancer when they originally released back in 2015 on the PC, before being ported to just about every platform around and eventually landing on the Nintendo Switch in early 2018. On the surface, Necrodancer would appear as many other indie games before it, a 2D, top-down, pixel art, roguelike, procedurally generated dungeon crawler. It's a genre that rolls off the tongue, and although there are plenty of good examples of this sort of game, there are so many of them around. Now, what Necrodancer did well though was to take this formula and add in a delicious twist, where you could only move to the beat of the soundtrack in the game. Enemies similarly attacked in different patterns, but always based on the rhythm of the music. Controls were simple, and although you could assign some items to the face buttons, the game's only control really is the left stick to move, and to attack enemies in the dungeons you just moved into them when they weren't in an attacking phase of their movement pattern. It's a pretty decent game, although personally I found the constant tapping of either the D-pad or the left stick a little bit annoying after some time, and it can be frustrating losing the rhythm and your multiplier, or worse still, taking a killing blow and ending your run just because you slightly mistimed your movement. But still, it's enjoyed by a lot of the indie crowd, and this original game is actually on a deep sale at the moment on the eShop and various other platforms, so if you want to check it out, have a look on your local store. So spin forward to March 2019, and one of Nintendo's regular Nindies showcases revealed a new game that would blend Crypt of the Necrodancer's format and apply a generous slathering of Legend of Zelda over the top. Cadence of Hyrule, as it would be called, was certainly a shocking announcement, with Nintendo allowing one of their biggest IPs to be used in an external indie studio, although Nintendo themselves would publish it, and you'd imagine keep a close eye on the development process. It has to be said though, the Zelda influence has been used superbly in this game. The first thing you would note if you've played both games is the bump up in graphical quality. When Necrodancer was very pixel based, unashamed to show its jaggy edges, Hyrule looks beautiful and very reminiscent of something like A Link to the Past. Starting the game as Cadence herself, you find yourself landing in Hyrule with uncanny timing. As the king has been kidnapped, the castle sealed off, and Zelda and Link find themselves in slumbered comas. This intro serves to give you an introduction to the game mechanics, although you soon stumble across Link and Zelda and have to choose which you will carry on the game with. Now, I won't spoil the story events too much, but I like that whichever character you chose, you not only have a slightly different special ability to start with, but also the story plays out a little differently, with Zelda starting inside the castle trying to find her father, and Link starting outside trying to get into the castle to rescue Zelda. This is just one example of some pretty decent longevity in the game. Besides the main story mode, you can play a permadeath mode, plus there's a daily run mode with online leaderboards which should keep you coming back. There's also 2-player co-op with drop in and drop out. Now, I think this choice of game modes is great and will definitely have you being pulled back months down the line, and especially the daily run mode, which I like a lot, as you can just instantly jump in at any time, any day, and have something to aim for. Now, to reach the end goal, similar to other Zelda games, your task is to find and defeat the 4 bosses of Hyrule before the castle can be breached and the final challenge against Octavo awaits. The map of Hyrule has an element of randomness. With each new game you start, the single screen map tiles that make up the bigger map are shuffled, so each new run will feel fresh, although the tiles themselves are the same no matter what location they actually end up on the map. You can find classic Zelda dungeons on your travels though, and these will actually be procedurally generated every time you enter them, a little bit like the original Crypt of the Necrodancer. So even if you die on the same run and get resurrected at one of the many Sheikah slates you can unlock, whilst the overworld map stayed constant, the underground dungeons will be totally different. This again is a superb idea. I love that the overworld is only randomly generated once per game, but those mini dungeon runs always feel like a classic roguelike experience. The roguelike element here involves the diamonds you collect in the game, either by clearing a screen of enemies or finding them in hidden chests spread around every corner of the land. When you lose all your hearts and die in the game, you lose all rupees and items you have collected, but you do keep the diamonds, and between runs you can visit a shop and spend them. The random selection of items offered by the shop range in price, and you can buy as many as you can afford and take them into your next run. The biggest change in Cadence of Hyrule though is definitely for the better. The quirky movement mechanic of the original is now only reserved when there are enemies on the screen. If you clear a screen of the enemies, you will be awarded a diamond, and also the movement restriction will be lifted, allowing you to freely move and explore. This was a game changer for me once I got my head around it, and what it does do is shine a light on a unique combat mechanic rather than having the movement mechanic as the game's main feature. It just feels right that, like in so many other indie games, you have something a little bit quirky and different to deal with in combat, but other than that it's just a straight up exploring adventure game. Removing the rhythm-based movement now generally makes it feel like a new entrant to the Zelda franchise, and sits nicely with something like Link to the Past or Link's Awakening. All of the other usual Zelda trappings are here too, from rupees hidden in grass, heart containers, potions, your shield, bombs, bow and arrows, as well as all familiar enemies from the franchises. It cannot be underestimated how well the Zelda franchise has been used in Cadence of Hyrule, and this filters through to the music in the game, which you need to keep your rhythm-based combat going. Rock and electric remixes of familiar Zelda tunes ring out as you hop around swinging your sword. The 25 pieces of music that have been remixed are superb and will have fans grinning from ear to ear, I have no doubt. Familiar little sound effects and jingles are also heard throughout the game, which is also a cool touch. The difficulty in the game ramps up nicely, where monsters start out as fairly static blue slime and work their way up to rock monsters, wolves and guardians as you go on. Miss a beat in combat stages and you'll be routed to the spot, offering up an easy hit to any chasing beastie. Plus, the more you stay on the beat, the more powerful your attacks become, meaning killing enemies results in bigger and rarer loot drops. It's a really nice risk and reward mechanic, and sometimes just figuring out how you're going to approach a dancing enemy is a puzzle enough in itself. I'm sure I still have so many secrets to uncover in this game as I attempt new runs with both characters, and every play reveals something new, whether it's a new item, a hidden room or another cool mechanic, like when... Actually no, I won't spoil that. The beauty of this game is the joy of rediscovering the Legend of Zelda in this way. So in closing, let me try and break down who I think this game is for. Now if you didn't like Crypt of the Necrodancer and don't like Zelda, then well, there isn't going to be much for you here. But if you didn't like Necrodancer but are a big Zelda fan, then the subtle change in gameplay mechanics from the original should be enough to have you reconsidering this entry. Finally, if you really dig the original in all its glory but are nonplussed about Zelda, then this just feels like an enhanced sequel in every way, and all of the Zelda based mechanics work perfectly on top of the original's gameplay. I was really surprised how much I liked this game. The level of Nintendo polish is so shiny that it could actually pass as a Nintendo developed game, which is a real credit to the developers. Yes, it's a little pricey for what technically is an indie game, and its main story mode is going to offer around about 5 hours. But you're getting a really decent package, and if it was a first party game, which again it doesn't feel too far from, then fans would be praising the relatively low price for a Nintendo game. It may not be the longest as I say, but with a great soundtrack, appealing visuals, various game modes and those online leaderboards, it's one you'll want to come back to time and again. I'm going to give Cadence of Hyrule on the Nintendo Switch a superb 9 out of 10, an excellent game and highly recommended. Okay, thank you everyone for watching this review. Please consider subscribing if you like this video, and also please let me know below your favourite Zelda game. Personally, I still think Breath of the Wild will take some beating, and I can't wait to see what the recently announced sequel will bring either. Okay, thanks again for watching. Remember to stay switched on, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, bye!